You know, the game wants you to, I'm going to go into a bit of a tangent here. I'm going to go into my likes and dislikes, but also my hopes for the future for Stellar Blade. Thing that I like the most about Stellar Blade is the team behind it. And what I mean by that is, you know, this is a bit of a, you know, not really so much to do with the game, but I like how the team seems to be ahead of the game in technology, right? They always have something up their sleeves, it seems like, right? They got the graphics mode on point, they got the performance mode pretty solid, they got something that they want to update and put in the game, and they put it out just like that. You know, I like that idea that whatever they have, kind of like when RE Engine came out for Capcom, and it just felt like, oh, anything they put out is just a hit. You know, it just works, it just fits in, it makes everything looks better. You know, and with Blue Point, when they're remaking games, so whatever they're doing, it just looks gorgeous. It looks like it's a masterpiece. It looks phenomenal. Give them all of your IPs, they are going to make it look extraordinary, right? I like that when teams have that secret sauce. I like that. And I feel the same way about the Stellar Blade team. I feel like they have the secret sauce. What I dislike about Stellar Blade, the game, it goes back into something that I originally liked about Stellar Blade, which I was hoping that it would be more of a free-for-all type of game. Like a game where you could just play it in any way that you want. And of course, I'm speaking about combat. Right, naturally, the game wants you to be parrying everything, and you know, that's pretty much the game right there. It's parry. And I like that. I'm okay with that. I like parrying. What I don't like is when you're kind of shoehorned into doing that. That's what I don't like. And what I mean by that is, while I like parrying, I don't want it to be the best choice and the best answer and kind of the only answer to do things the most efficiently. Like if you would play Souls games, which I don't play Souls games, I just speak on it because I've observed them, and some other action games, there's more than just parrying and just bracing for impact. And that's things like leading an enemy off axis, right? And with Dark Souls and Souls games, it was just to roll, get behind them, get a couple hits at their back, right? And these are things that aren't really baked into the system mechanics. They're things that the player just has to identify and make use of it, and the meta naturally evolved from there, you know. In Stellar Blade, it's more like, this is an attack, you're going to parry it or else. That's kind of how it feels like. Even though you could dodge, but if we're being honest, at least from what I've observed and how I've been playing the game, testing the game, dodging is overall weaker than parry, right? And let me tell you how the game works a little bit. So when you parry something, not only are you taking pips off of their posture and eventually getting the stagger chance to retribution, not only are you getting that, but every time that you parry, you're also getting this game's equivalent to a punish counter. So whenever you parry something, you get a larger punish to do your combos than if you didn't parry. But if you dodge something, you don't get that. If you dodge something, especially on bosses, what happens is you'll attack them, and let's say you go into that right there, you go into trying to do that against a boss, they will immediately start attacking you again, and you've already committed to that second part of that right there, and you're getting clapped. So dodging naturally is weaker as an offensive tool. So you have less chance to hit the opponent after a dodge, and you really don't get that much damage in this game, period. So you know, it just kind of just, you're building red meter, and you know, it just doesn't feel like the reward is as big. Like if I parry, I get blue meter, which I could then convert into red meter, you know, and I'll get more meter from converting blue meter into red than I would from just dodging. You know, like you get more red meter from building blue meter instead of doing the thing that should be giving you red meter. So it's just weird. It's let me do that. I'm gonna see how much meter I built. Right there, I built only almost 1 red bar. Right, if I convert blue to red, stop staggering. It's immediately 1 red bar. And so you're kind of just covering the best of both worlds just by parrying the whole time. You know, you'll build blue bar and red bar at the same time. And not to mention that the retribution only obtained from parrying and blue stuff gives you 2 red bars. So it's just like parrying is just the meta of this game, and it's kind of just the way to go to be the most efficient. You get the bigger stagger, the bigger punish, you get the bigger damage, you get the bigger moves that do bigger damage. You also get the red bar on top of that, while also conveniently weakening their defense, and you know, you just get everything more from parrying. And so that's kind of what I don't like about this game, is it kind of shoehorns you in a direction. And if I wanted to play it like just dodging, the boss fights are just going to take so long. Everything is going to be so much harder. It's going to take so much longer to do everything. And it's just not really worth it. But what if I didn't even want a perfect dodge? If I just wanted to just mislead them and just get behind them off axis like this, or just lead an attack off axis. It's kind of hard to do that because the enemies track so hard in this game. Enemies track so hard. Right? Like, they're always on your ass. No matter how far you run, what direction you're going, they're always going to hit you. You know, and that again plays into what I mean by the game just kind of feels like it's shoehorning you into doing a specific play style. It's not that it's a bad play style or that it's not fun. It's just, you know, what if I wanted to be different? What if I wanted to try something else with the skill tree and yada yada yada. One more thing that I like, let's go back to the likes. I like the feel of the game. I like that what it does try to make the player do, it's fun, right? It's fun getting the slow-mo. It's fun trying to think of ways to get damage. It's fun trying to conceive ways to better your performance. I can say that 100%. I really do like trying to perfect the way that I play in this game. And that's something that's not easy to do. But I feel like I should extend the likes more so it doesn't sound like a hate video. But yeah, anyways. Number 2 of what I dislike, I don't know if it's number 2 or not, but I dislike the flow of the game. So this game is obviously meant for you to parry and go in on offense. It's meant for you to parry and then go in on offense. But this game reminds me of fighting a Gal player in Street Fighter, right? This entire game reminds me of fighting Gal. The whole time I'm playing, I feel like I'm just fighting another gal player. And what I mean by this is you're expected to go in on offense, but you're also not. In short, you get killed by going in on offense in this game. Offense is going to kill you more times than not. Offense is the #1 killer in this game. Attacking is going to get you killed in Stellar Blade. So what does that mean? They want you to play defense, right? Well, the thing is, a lot of the times when you're playing defense, you feel like you're not really playing the game, right? You feel like you're just gazing. Both of you are just gazing at each other, right? That's kind of what it feels like sometimes, especially in boss fights. It's like it gets kind of awkward. Like, am I supposed to be doing something here? Is he gonna do something to me? You know, it's just like, what if I just press a button? Will I just press a button? You know, it just kind of feels awkward when you try to play defensively. You know, it looks awkward, and it probably feels awkward to you. Maybe it does or it doesn't, but to me, it feels awkward. And so a lot of times I get, you know, a bit fed up with it. Like, okay, we're just staring at each other for a bit. I feel like I could just be doing so much. There's so much room. There's so much unspoken air right here. I can just press a few buttons here and here and here and just kind of break the ice. But a lot of times when you try to do that in Stellar Blade, it gets you killed. It gets you killed. And so what you're expected to do is know a specific string of combo per boss and sometimes per enemy to really get between the cracks like that. You have to know specific combo sequences per boss or enemy depending on, you know, the severity of it. If you wanted to break that awkward kind of stalling sensation, and it just doesn't feel that natural, is what I guess I would say, you know. And I equate that to fighting a Gal player is because when you're fighting Gal, he's just sitting back, you know, eating some Cheetos. Sonic boom. Sonic boom. Sonic boom. And then you try to, okay, man, I'm sick of this. He should not be allowed to just be tripping me out, killing me from a distance, chilling with his feet up like this. Let me jump in on this motherfucker. I jump. Plus kick. Sonic boom. You know, you're back to square one. You've taken more damage than you would have if you just sat patiently and just crept forward a little bit. Either way, you're taking damage. Either way, you're losing a bit of something. But because you wanted to break the ice, you ended up losing more than you would have otherwise. And that's kind of what it feels like in Stellar Blade. Is if you try to break the ice, if you try to get rid of that awkward stalling sensation, you're going to get flash kicked. And except in Stellar Blade, it's going to do like 50% or if not kill you. You know, you may just want to restart because the game's culture kind of got to this point where it's like, if you don't do a no-hit run, is it really worth it? I don't know where that came from, but I feel like that kind of culture only develops when there isn't as much depth to dig into, you know? And so it kind of becomes a time attack type of thing. But anyways, that's what I dislike about Stellar Blade. Number 2 is that there's a lot of awkward stalling. You're expected to go in on offense, but also you're expected to play defense. And what happens from that is you end up, a lot of the times, the best thing to do is just sit there and wait. Sit there and wait. And it just kind of just feels awkward, you know? And it feels like there should be something that could break the air, break the ice, whether it be the computers doing it, the enemies doing it, whether it be something that you could be doing. It feels like there should be something in between that should be an option. Is because I guess what I'm trying to say. Other than committing to an attack that you can't cancel out of. Right. Number 3 of what I like about Stellar Blade. I like the music, but I feel like that's not really a good answer for this. I like the reversals. In fact, I would say I love the reversals. Reversals are my favorite thing about the game, probably. Reversals are probably my favorite thing about Stellar Blade. Every time I pull them off, it feels so satisfying. Especially the dodge versions. Because the dodge gives you that cool slowdown into it. And they also work more. They work better because of the invisibility you have from dodging. The parry ones are cool too, but they're a lot harder to fit in. They're a lot harder to fill in. They're not as satisfying, but they're good. I don't really know the purpose for that one. That one kind of stinks in my opinion, but it looks cool. But yeah, the dodge ones are so cool, right? The dodge variants are the coolest attacks in Stellar Blade, if you ask me. Harkening back onto what I said, something about the game kind of shuffling players into a certain style of play. Even if the game isn't directly telling players to play in a specific way, the game heavily rewards you for doing a certain play style. And that kind of works against the game, if you ask me, because it's also the funnest way to play the game. It's also the strongest way to play the game. It's the most efficient way to play the game. And so if it kind of feels like if you're not doing that, you're not playing the game. You know, so it feels like there's just aren't any other ways to go about playing Stellar Blade other than messing around with the gears. But number 3 of my dislikes would be the skill tree not being diverse enough. I was so excited when the game was coming out and we learned that there was going to be a skill tree, because it felt like there was going to be so much to dig into, so much to learn, so much to mess around with, so many play styles that we may be able to dig our teeth into. But there really isn't much to diversify people from playing the same exact way. And that's because you're going to, me, you, the next person, that next person, we're all going to end up having the same things. You have enough skill points to obtain the same exact build as everybody else who plays this game. You know? And so I was hoping that it would be more of a pick your poison type of skill tree where I build more towards burst attacks, which means I'm leaning more towards dodging, which means I'm building a dodge build where I have to get perfect dodges, and you know, all my dodge skills are really strong and really buff, you know, and just lean heavily into I'm going all in over here, but that means I'm not going to be able to get some of this. You know, I really was hoping for that approach, but we really just we're all going to end up with the same skills. We're all going to end up with the same everything. You know, the combos are all unlocked at the start. You don't have to, I don't even know why they're here if they're already unlocked, you know. So yeah, there's no real worry about unlocking things or anything like that, because we're all going to end up with the same exact skill trees, more or less, and it won't really make that much of a difference. So the skill tree, I would say, is my biggest, it's third on my list, but I would say it's probably my most disappointing thing about the game. Is the skill tree, even despite everything that I've been saying about the parrying and whatever I said before, the skill tree could have been the difference maker in changing all of that. Regardless of how the game ended up being, the skill tree could have altered that, and it still could in the future. You never know. So we're going into my hopes for the future for Stellar Blade, because I don't think it's all gloom and doom, except for Talkie mode. I don't know what the fuck they're going to do with Talkie mode. Talkie mode is so underwhelming. But let's stay on the positive track here. My hopes for Stellar Blade. The cosmetics are cool, they're lovely, they're fun, they keep people coming back. I enjoy them as well. I enjoy the little side quests and stuff as well. But my biggest hope for Stellar Blade is that there is another DLC coming, and this time they really just focus on the gameplay itself, not side quests, not quests, but actually focus on the game and adding content to the gameplay. And whether that is in the form of adding new skills to the skill tree, extending the skill tree. And I don't mean extending the skill tree like this, the beta skills. I don't mean this type of extension. I mean like extension in a way that branches out. You select this or you select that, you know, or just give us a completely new skill tree with like, oh, here's this variation of the beta change. But if I press up or down, if I go down, then there's another beta skill tree. And do I want to switch over and build on that? And that means I lose all the points in here. And then so I build in my triangle skill. Instead of being whatever this is, the slash, it might become something else. Right? Effectively turning Eve into a different character. Or having a different, not a different character, but having a different play style. Right? The shockwaves become something else. Who knows what it could be. This attack becomes something else. Who knows what it could be. You know, maybe one of these skills turns out to be Eve gets a bigger jump distance or something like that, you know, like it could be anything, who knows, you know. And I hope that that is something that is in store for the future, is that they extend the skill tree or just add more skills in general to each one of these categories. Every single one. The combos, I hope we get new combos, and so we can replace combos, because a lot of these combos kind of suck. I hope we can swap out combos with the skill tree, and, you know, especially go down and say, okay, well, here's a different square combo. This one looks different. Or rather, maybe that square times 4 combo, it's just square, right? And maybe Eve pulls out a different weapon or some shit, I don't know. But I hope that in the future for this game, if there is a future for Stellar Blade, I hope that there is an extension of the skill tree. That way we can truly diversify the play styles, not just from me to you, but from ourselves to ourselves, so we can have a different way to approach the game, you know. It's not just about being different, it's just about obtaining a different experience. But I don't know if that's going to be in this game. It may be something we have to wait for Stellar Blade 2, if there is one. Yeah, like they could go so much further with the things like this, like the ambush tactics. You really don't have to use the assault that much. What if we had a better dive kick? The dive kick is something that I feel like is the most limiting move in the game, because it feels like it sounds like something that should be really cool, but it's so slow and it has so much recovery on it. It's something that you almost will never use because it's not strong either. There's no real purpose in using the dive kick. People use it to go out of bounds and do the glitch to get out of bounds, but is that really the only purpose for it? So I hope that, you know, along with updating the skill tree, adding more skills to the skill tree, and or otherwise extending it, I hope that they also just rebalance a lot of attacks, movements, and tools in the game, like the dive kick. I feel like the dive kick should be a fun tool for the player to have. I feel like it shouldn't be slow. Maybe we can extend on the dive kick and we could just jump on people's heads like Chun-Li, you know? I feel like it should be a fun tool to get across the map. And it's kind of just a tool that actually stagnates you from going anywhere. You know, I feel like it's at a cross purpose. But yeah, that would be my biggest hope, is that Stellar Blade goes this route of targeting gameplay. The next thing, number 2 of what I hope is in store for Stellar Blade. I hope that they give us a means of travel, and I don't mean fast travel, but a faster way to travel. And I don't know about you, but one of the things I was most excited about when the Stellar Blade trailers were dropping was that moment where Eve was on her sword boarding through the city. And maybe it was foolish of me, but my expectations from seeing that was that we were going to be traveling all over the universe of Stellar Blade, this world of Stellar Blade, on Eve's sword as a means of fast travel. I thought that that segment in that trailer was going to be how we get from one place to the other. That was what my thoughts were. But we only get that moment about 10 plus hours into the game. And it's very short-lived. It's also skippable. It's also missable. Because you may not even get to go there. But what little moments that there are of sword boarding, they just aren't around enough. You know, and it was such a hype and, you know, fun thing. Like, people were hoping for it. A lot of people wanted this game just from seeing that. And I am partially one of them. So I would hope that they add more sword boarding in the game. Not just more hyper tubes. Not just more hyper tubes. But a way to just use Eve's sword as a bit of a mount to get around from place to place. Use the terrain like ramps. Well, yeah, if they add like sword boarding combat. Obviously you're on your sword, but you can still use your gun. You know? What if they did that? And so you can also use it in combat to get around. They can't hit you with that. You can't use this in combat, you know, shenanigans that they do. Right? Because you'll be able to use it. It is a combat tool. You know, so I hope that they add sword birthing. I hope they add sword boarding throughout the entire game. I hope that they do that, but will they? Is it likely? I don't know. But I feel like that was a promise that was made, and I feel like that is the biggest promise that just turned out not to be true. Number 4 of things that I hope for Stellar Blade's future. We've got boss challenge, but in my opinion, maybe it's just me, I actually think it's more fun fighting regular mobs than fighting bosses. Not just one-on-one against regular mobs, but when they all gang up together, I find like that is more fun. It's more chaotic, and it's more hectic, and you have to use a lot more of the game's tools a lot more strategically. You have to be a lot more careful. You have to plot. A lot of things that you know about the game just turns out not to be the best way to approach those situations. And so I hope that they add a mob challenge, and it just progressively gets harder and harder and harder. And it's not just a giant room where you fight mobs, but it's like a mixed platformer, get from point A to point B type of thing. Right? I hope that they add that, kind of like what Resident Evil does with the what do they call it, hunk mode or whatever. One of those modes where you have a start You have to get to the finish, but there's a lot of difficult and trap enemies in a way in between there. They could go that way. They could go that route. Or they could do like a Shaolin Monks thing, Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks, where they give you like 8 to 10 stages of enemies, unique arena. You know, it's just a giant crazy mode where you're just dealing with things and just dodging for your life and trying to survive. That's another way that they could go about it. And the last way that they could go about it is just make it a randomizer in that, you know, arena, and every time you play it, it could be like one arena or two. Maybe you could just pick a stage. Maybe you can pick the stage and the enemies get randomized, and there's like a certain level of difficulty for how many enemies get put in, but they're randomized, you know. And so it'll be a mode that just changes every time you play it, and you just have to survive and kill the enemies and yada yada yada. You know, whatever they do, I hope they have fun with it. I hope they have fun with it, because if they have fun with it, it means that we're going to have fun with it. Just like this was a passion project initially, from what I can tell. Just like Stellar Blade was a passion project for, let's be honest, perverts. I hope that a mob challenge for mob enemies, standard mob enemies, and maybe throwing a boss at the end. Maybe, I don't know, who cares? Just make it hectic, make it chaotic, and I think it's going to be really fun. You know, I personally think that will be more fun than boss challenge. And it'll be something that I would play more than boss challenge as well. But last but not least, whatever number that we're on, I'll just say number 5. I don't know what number we're on. I think everybody wants chapter select. Chapter select is the reason why I never leave this spot in the game I'm in. I lied to you not. I've been here since last year. Since the first DLC dropped and they said, oh, you got to get to this specific point to access the DLC content that we just released. At that time, I had just beaten the game. And like, oh shit, I got to start a new game and get here. And so, since then, I realized a trend. Everything that they release DLC-wise is going to be in the middle of the game. And so why would I ever go beyond this point that I can't come back from, that I can't create a separate save file from, if I'm going to miss out on DLC? So I hope that they add chapter select. And if not, I hope that the future installment of Stellar Blade becomes more of a chapter-based video game as a whole. And that way they can focus on all of the main ingredients and less of the fluff. But anyways, that's just my opinion on Stellar Blade. Yeah, but let me know what you think. Let me know what you think, and I will catch y'all in the future. May peace be with those. Keep your heads up. This is dueces, ITOwl. Stay cool. If you like this content, be sure to show some love, but always be sure to show that love to the people who matter to you. So ITOwl bidding farewell. Peace, much love. Stay cool. Deuces.